So, how's it going, guys? I don't even have to use the microphone today. This is pretty nice.
What's your name? Rachel. Kirk. Rachel and Kirk. I'm Yanick.
I say Yanick Paquette, Chris Sprouse, and Steve Orlando.
Rachel and Kirk.
Yeah, we're all getting to know each other. I'm Jeremy, if anybody's curious. Not a whole lot, man. So, thank you. So what was your guys' first exposure to Wonder Woman? Can you remember the first time that you saw the character, and then what were your initial thoughts of them? Were you a fan of Wonder Woman right away, or not until you guys started working on them?
It's got to be well, first, I'm French Canadian.
So was my grandfather.
Yeah. What?
Yeah.
Yeah. And would that also mean that the TV show, the Wonder Woman TV show, never got translated in French? So I saw the Hulk, like that show, but not Wonder Woman. So Linda Carter is not at all part of my mythological inner vision of what Wonder Woman is.
Right.
In fact, it makes no sense to me that she's so American when she's Greek, and
that did always kind of strike me as odd. Like, why has she got the American flag all over her?
Yeah, well,
if she,
in the context of her creation at the beginning of the 40s, it was the war, and almost every comic book character was like a war effort and patriotism, I guess. Yeah. Is it Wonder Woman? There's like a terrible cover of her, like bashing like rat-looking Japanese.
Almost definitely.
I think they all did that at one point back then.
Like in retrospect, this is like yeah. So yeah, my first, I guess, it's got to be a comic somewhere, but I was a Marvel guy, so I didn't care.
Okay.
I guess I got my first monthly book was Wonder Woman in the late 90s, and I had no idea. And I have a friend that actually collected. So I borrowed the entire run from Perez to whatever Byrne, I think, and I've read them all. Which is because that was my first monthly. I'll never do that again. Yeah. That's way too professional. It's way too thorough. Now I'm being like parachute and books. I don't know it. I don't barely care.
Right.
Just make sure I got like visual right. But back then, I did the work, and I've read like 80 issue, 100 issue of Wonder Woman.
I like the longer you're in comics, the less you care.
Well, that's the rule. So what's your name? We were three.
Rachel.
Another Rachel.
Hey, two Rachels. Oh, so
great. We need another character.
Well, Shonda's back there, so.
Yeah.
I would actually love for him to show up and not know even what Wonder Woman was. He's like, oh, Linda Carter. Anyway, you can assume what he would say after that. But that was that's also my answer, right? Because like we didn't have a comic store in my town when I was a younger person. But we did have whatever channel was running all of the shows from the 70s. So I saw the Hulk, but I also saw Wonder Woman. I also saw the live-action Spider-Man show.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So that was my first interaction with her.
Doctor Strange movie.
That one's actually I have not. It was weird. So that was
they promoted that.
Wizard would do these back before we were doing comic book movies all the time. They would always Wizard magazine would do these photo collages of all the shitty daytime TV versions of these characters, and Doctor Strange was always in there. Yeah. But I never saw that, and I never saw the Captain Marvel show until I tried watching it a couple of years ago, and I was like, good God.
Yeah. Saturday morning.
It's quite bad. Even by those contemporary standards.
What is it? Star Wars Holiday Special bag.
Funny thing about that.
Own category of
funny thing about that, because clearly we can freeform this panel. I'd never seen it, it hit pause. So I'd never seen it. And then my first Star Wars work in Marvel was the Life Day special, where they were gonna fucking canonize basically the stuff from the holiday special. So my fiance had seen it, and he said that it was bad. And I was like, yeah, but come on. This is the thing people say. It can't be that bad. And I got to the point where Harvey Korman was a fucking alien Julia Child. And I was like, fuck no. I can just read the Wikipedia. Because I know what Life Day is. I don't need to go to the end. Oh, it was when Jefferson Starship showed up as well. And I was just like, what the hell's going on?
Do you know what Riff Tracks is?
Yes.
They do a version of it. That's the only way to watch that.
Yeah.
Just listening to their pain is hilarious.
So I have seen it, but not in parts because I was like, I need to space this. It's exhausting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
You know?
like in little dosage,
Oh
like
my
a poison.
God, and the
to build
cooking-
immunity.
The like mod 1960s kitchen that I guess Chewbacca's wife has. Oh my God, it's
Special VR machine.
but now you're saying that now this is canon, right?
well,
Otherwise, as a kitchen,
no. I was
all
going to
this
say
whole-
Life Day is canon,
And the Boba
but
Fett cartoon.
as a holiday. But not everything from the show was canon.
Yeah.
But like
Okay.
Marvel, Star Wars wanted to do a holiday special, but they didn't want to call it that for obvious reasons. So it was the Life Day special, and it was just about people celebrating Life Day, which in of itself is not so cringeworthy.
Yeah.
But I tried to get the Julia Child, Harvey Korman alien in, but that was a hard no, as you might imagine.
Yeah. So because the policy over there, we're talking about Wonder Woman here. So the policy of Star Wars over there is to just discard this entire thing. Never happened.
Well, but that's also the policy for anything pre-Disney buy. Like almost everything that I liked as a kid is now Legends, but then some of it comes back at their discretion. So like.
Okay.
But I will bring it back to Wonder Woman and say this was a very similar concept when I was writing the book with Kangas. All I wanted was Kangas, and for the 3 different times I wrote Wonder Woman, they were like, "Well, that's just absurd." I was like, "Okay." Like she can spin around and change her costume, which is awesome, and that's not absurd. But like a kangaroo, that's too far. Very strange for me. What people.
And plus, I mean, these initial
Kangaroos
kangaroo would
Yeah, if I had sent that email, Chris, I would be fired. But it's true.
and the thing in the 40s, those kangaroos not only they were kangaroos, but they would jump from one planet to the other.
Well, they can do that.
And your stuff.
No, I mean in real, they exist and
Yeah.
they can do that.
I know.
So, what was your first
TV
exposure
show.
to the character
Yeah,
TV show?
When I was
Is your name Kurt?
until I was about
That's
too bad.
These two are really true.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, I want to know. I want to know what is all your favorite semi-absurd thing about Wonder Woman. So this is a Wonder Woman panel, and I'm taking the reins. Like I love her, but she is kind of like all comic book characters are kind of absurd. I think that's why we love them. So for me, it's the kangaroos, and the Wonder Spin. So let me get that out of the way. But I'm interested. Like there's always something you have that affection for. What do y'all love about Diana? Or if Diana's not your Wonder Woman, the character that you're most interested in.
I love the truth lasso.
The Truth Lasso.
I think that's great.
The invisible jet.
Oh, the
Jet
jet
is very good.
Jet.
But you can still see her in it.
Yeah. Every time it appears in comics, and she's just like.
She's like, so,
See, I'm afraid of flying, so I can imagine being in an airplane.
Yeah, you're.
Oh, my goodness.
She can fly.
But she can
Yeah,
fly.
You're right. So I never really, I
Did
don't
she
know.
always could fly? But
No.
I
then,
don't think so.
so the
It
jet
takes
had the
a while.
purpose for a while,
She
right?
pre-Perez. I'm trying to find the nice way to say this. I will say that it was not her presentation was not as progressive as it could have been. She sort of unfortunately functioned like the Justice League secretary
Yeah.
and could not fly. She still lost her powers if you tied her up. So George changed a lot.
Alright.
So I mean, but
I
now
think
she
for the
has a
better, I
plane
would
because
say.
it's cool. And other people can't fly, so she can bring people in the invisible jet.
I guess to me, it's more the culture, the island, the architecture. It's more she's part of it, but it's more the world of the island itself. And when we did the thing with Grant, the Earth one, that's where I spent all my energy trying to build this culture, which is not like pure Greek, like what Perez kind of stick it to. Like it's
Right.
it's
No,
like
you got-
sci-fi, crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
you brought it actually
Ish.
back closer to the Marston stuff in a variety of ways,
Yeah.
along with the science fiction. I mean, it was originally a much more radical book, and
Yep.
then the '60s happened, the '50s and '60s, and she was just kind of like taking notes for the Justice League, which was insulting.
Yep.
But she's back now.
That's just it.
Oh, for sure. Is there like an added sense of pressure from either the publisher or the fan base working on a character like Wonder Woman as opposed to another character?
I think so.
Scrutiny.
Extra scrutiny.
Added level. Yeah, when you do the big characters, they are more concerned. Well, as speaking as an artist, they're more concerned with making it look right, get canon, I guess, match canon, and you can take a lot more chances with, elongated man or something than you can with Superman or Batman.
Right.
But I think in the case of Wonder Woman, it's a layer more than that because unlike Batman, Wonder Woman also act as a symbol outside the comic. She represent feminism and all these things. So I mean, we've done a panel very recently, so maybe I'm going to repeat myself to you guys. But I mean, if you do a very poor Batman story that don't quite work, and you won't get the orphan of America calling you like, yeah, wait, what have you done with Batman? And being all pissed about
To be
it.
clear, it will still offend someone these days.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
but there's not
100%.
like an organized group of orphan that look at whatever DC's doing with Batman. If they fuck it up, then you don't care for Orphan?
Right.
What's your problem with Orphan? You don't get that. So
And
you're
yet they
allowed
have
to
like
make
14 Batman books every month.
so you're allowed some room to fail with Batman. But with Wonder Woman, whatever you do, people seems to want to interpret it as a statement on feminism or female status in the world. And that makes the book, for writer at least, a little bit more tricky for those that are scared of the repercussion. Of course, when we did the stuff with Grant Morrison, the first email I got from him was like, let's go back to bondage and the craziness of the 40s. So I was like, oh, you're in so much trouble.
Right.
So much. But but everything he did felt justified, at least for me. And plus, I mean, this is the original version. It's not like we're arbitrarily taking, the craziest, sexiest, kinkiest version we could find. No, we just went for the original version. It turned out it was a weird book.
Right.
It's a weird book. I'll say on the writing side, what's interesting to me, I don't think there's pressure to make any book that is not Batman actually sell, so there's that. But I was fascinated, and not in a positive way, I'll admit, to find that she does, I wouldn't say there's pressure, but there is scrutiny. I've been on the book 3 different times, and as a character, she actually faces the exact same double standard that, welcome to the room, actual women face. When Wonder Woman doesn't sell well, or I shouldn't even say it doesn't sell well, it doesn't sell what folks want it to. It's like, well, something's wrong with this character. We need to change everything about her. So folks wonder why she moves to different cities all the time, or she has different supporting casts all the time. It's because of this bullshit, to be quite honest. There's something is fundamentally wrong. We need to change everything about her. Versus when Captain America sells that exact same number, no one says, well, something's fundamentally wrong with Captain America.
Right.
We just have to, do a new number 1 or do whatever else. So there's a lot of heightened pressure, but it's actually, this is not like a fun, she's great story. She is great, but like she faces the same bullshit that real women face. And you can't explain to people that it shouldn't be that way. I mean, I can explain it to you. I can't explain it to the people that I work for, or used to. But it was fascinating to me because it really is. When I came on the book, I'm trying to tread the line here. When I came on the book, I will say every time there was a different set of rules. I was on it 3 times, 3 different sets of rules.
Really?
Or I shouldn't say rules, 3 different sets of desires to the people hiring me.
Okay.
And that's because, for the things we just said. Well, she has to move to this run wasn't selling well, so she had to go new city, new supporting cast. Suddenly she can't do X, Y, and Z. She has to do, and this isn't just about my run. You can see it in things like when Passerin and Straczynski came on, and she had new costume, new lore, new location. Mm-hmm. It's fascinating, and there's like a book of criticism to be written by someone smarter than me about the fact that she really does face the same bullshit double standard, and probably more than almost any other comic character, because she is she's the icon for female comic characters.
That's interesting. I never realized that, but you're right.
And we can talk more. And we can talk more behind the scenes.
Yeah, but just by comparison to Batman or Superman, which always have basically the same cast, the same city, the same. They come. Well, it's not that I don't believe in character, but for me, character comes with the whole package. I mean, you can't.
Right.
You love Sherlock Holmes. So, but if you want, if it's so good, you say, you can join GLA and add more detective aspect to GLA. No, you lose a lot of the character because it needs London, it needs the kind of vibe,
Watson
the
with
Victorian thing.
yeah.
So for it perfectly work because he's part of the universe. And I think Batman is so successful today because there is a set of expectation in terms of moon, in terms of location, in terms of, and then you can have books like Gotham Central where you don't even have Batman. It smells Batman-y and you know the same vibe. But Wonder Woman doesn't have this asset because again she's being like transplanted left and right, and what really is left is just her. And I wonder how many. I mean, once in a while, we'll change Superman costume, you know, as we restart the entire line, and then the belt change,
Right.
basically. But Wonder Woman has a lot of costume change, and I wonder
Power
if she
change,
has.
origin change.
Yeah.
The entire mod era where she didn't have powers and she was just Emma Peel. It's a you can
And
see it.
it's
once
all
you're
a
looking for
quest
it.
of hot potato. We don't know what to do.
So
Interesting.
how do you guys go kind of put your own stamp on a character like that is so overly scrutinized without kind of like making everybody at the publisher mad along with fans?
Well, in our case, I've done Wonder Woman in the '90s that was my first monthly. I barely knew how to draw, so I just followed the line.
Right.
Made all sorts of learn how to draw in public with Wonder Woman, and that was a bit terrible. They're not that great, but decades after they offered me the Wonder Woman Earth one with Grant, with the free reign that because Grant is there, no editorial can reach me behind Grant in any way. It's like a wall. So and we could do whatever we wanted, and plus it was not an Elseworld, a Earth one, so we could do. If we do crazy thing, it doesn't affect the franchise entirely.
Right.
But my first thing is that I looked at the costume. I made a costume change, so I'm guilty of that too. But what I tried to do is to remove the American aspect of the costume. That for me make make no sense.
No.
I mean,
Stars.
she's coming from the Greek,
Yeah.
which has a rich mythology, a rich visual culture, and then she dresses as a flag and for another country. Make no sense. So, but at the same time now she's really recognized with these color scheme and things. So I changed the stars, which is on the American flag it's 5 pointed.
Mm-hmm.
I've turned it into a 6 pointed, but angled it so it doesn't because the Star David has 6 point. So I tried to make it so that and I went to art history, tried to find what are the first graphic stars, what are the Greek doing stars and stuff. And the first few stars that you see in art history are the Bethlehem probably stars and the early Christians, and they have like a billion rays coming out of it. So that's not useful. And the 6 pointed one. So I just change the panties into the 6 pointed stars, and that's different enough that it doesn't feel too much as a flag, but looks pretty much like what you expect the character to look like.
More modernized.
I feel like I have such imposter syndrome here. I've done one Wonder Woman story. Basically, they offered it to me. It was maybe 10 years ago, so I was well into my career, and I just basically did it to make me happy. It's like, there wasn't a lot of editorial control. It was originally for DC had a line of digital-only comics for a while, and Sensation Comics is what the story was for, and it was online. And I got the impression that they didn't really pay a lot of attention to it, so we just basically did whatever we wanted. There was no editorial interference, but it's like I know when it's right in my head. Like, she looks like Wonder Woman to me, but I don't know how to define that. It's just, I sketched for a long time trying to get her face right, and like I wanted to make her look Greek, but I didn't want to make it look so ethnically caricaturized, if that's a word, that she looked hugely different from what she'd always looked like. So,
how bulky is she?
I made her. She wasn't like ripped, but she was still big. But because part of the story was it compared her and Lois Lane, how they reacted to the same threat in Metropolis. Lois Lane got Wonder Woman to sit down in a Starbucks for an interview about personal stuff. And so Wonder Woman is incredibly uncomfortable sitting there like tensely in a Starbucks, and Lois Lane is perfectly in her element, and then there's an alien invasion, and suddenly Wonder Woman is like, okay, I know how to do this. And then the story follows. It's split into every page after that is like
That mirror.
top and bottom, and it shows how Lois and Wonder Woman are dealing with the same situation. And so I needed her to contrast with Lois Lane. So Lois has like a more normal physique, and Wonder Woman she looks muscular, but not like super ripped or anything, like a bodybuilder. But I'm trying to make her bigger. That answers your question.
I mean, on the writing side, like it's a balance. It's not just with Wonder Woman. With any book, you don't want to impose. Well, you've been hired to bring your ideas and your perspective. At the same time, you don't want to impose it upon a character so much so that they break with the core of what the character is. So to me, it's always a balancing act. Which, by the way, like I'm sure I've gotten wrong in the past, and we all have in some way. But that's the thing. If you don't have anything to say about a character, then why are you there? At the same time, it still has to be true to the character. So, but that's not just Wonder Woman. I mean, it's any book, that's you have to. I mean, your value, of course, is that you have a perspective, but you can't. The perspective is a lens for that character. But of course, you can only see so much out of a lens. So you don't want to. You still have to know where the guidelines are, or I should say, the guardrails are rather, and they're different for every character. And there's simple ones. Like if you're writing Batman, you can do a lot. Nearly anything can be Batman. That's what's special about it. Batman 66 is still absolutely Batman, but so is The Dark Knight Returns. And so, but at the same time, like, you can't do a story where he pulls out a submachine gun and murders a bunch of people. So even if you think that that's a really cool story. With Wonder Woman, I mean, like, it's a similar thing. And there's an extra awareness. I think it's, I'm not talking out of school when I say that it's a Wonder Woman panel with 3 men up here. Like on the writing side, like, consulting, doing not either sensitivity reading or doing extra research, doing, those things are important and it's part of the deal. You'd asked about pressure earlier. Like, I think there is it's not pressure, but there's an added responsibility when you're writing about anything that's without your own experience, and
Right.
that doesn't mean don't do it, by the way, but it means do the work. There's a certain generation of writers that love to. I was on a panel in Secaucus, New Jersey, and one of the old guard was there. They're not at the show, so don't go looking around. And I remember him saying, "What is this pretty standard old guard line? Well, I can write a woman, or I can write." These characters of color because I can write Superman and I'm not an alien. And I remember another panelist leaned into the microphone and said, well, the thing is that women are real. So, which is funny, but it's also true. So there's an added responsibility, there's an added weight, but that doesn't mean, again, don't do it. It means be gracious and humble if you get something wrong and do the extra work associated with it. And I'm writing Scarlet Witch right now, and I'll be honest, like, yes, writing Scarlet Witch is a lot more work than, writing Midnighter, which is basically like me in a trench coat, if I can get away with murdering people. So, but that's part of the job, if you were, and I think it's even more important, I think that side of things, the real world culture aspects are even more important to dig into and educate yourself about. Educating yourself about a character is part of any gig, like if I started writing something I haven't written, I don't know, a Lord of the Rings comic, like you would obviously spend a lot of time educating yourself about Lord of the Rings if you didn't know it. Well, that's part of the job, and it's even more a part of the job if we were in a world where, to quote New Jersey, like elves were actually real, because you are not just talking about something that people identify with through some sort of metaphor, you're talking about things that people identify with as true aspects in their own life. So I've always approached that with know your role, know the job, and sometimes that does mean doing a lot of work. That's the job of respecting your audience and trying to promote authenticity. But I'm also not a don't do things person. I'm more of an understand the job person. I mean, right. I look at that through. I mean, like I'm a Jew myself. I don't want non-Jews writing Jewish characters, but I do want them to understand that it's an extra amount of work. And two, if they get it wrong, understand that it's not an attack if people, have critiques or things like that. there's a level of graciousness that I think is important as well, or humility. That's a better word.
So, do you guys have any really memorable fan interactions from any past conventions?
Fan interaction.
Yeah, like Wonder
Memorable
Woman fan interactions.
That's a loaded word. Memorable in what way?
Yeah, there's
Okay,
all
we'll go
sorts.
positive. How's that?
Well, tons, I guess. Positive, they're less striking than the really bad one, I guess.
Oh, well, then let's go negative. Then. You ever had anybody come up really angry with you over something you wrote?
Well, that's
Or
called
drew,
Twitter.
Well,
Yeah.
that's fair.
You mean X?
The X,
Nope.
Twitter, whatever.
Well, I'll keep it to Wonder Woman. It's not my experience, but I will say this. 2017, we got a Wonder Woman movie. 2020, we also did, but that's a different discussion. And I was
I
at...
liked that movie.
Hmm?
It wasn't that bad.
Uh,
Second.
I mean, listen, I had issues, but I don't think it's as bad as everybody said it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think... All right. Digression. I just don't buy that she would ever... Oh, I'll never love again. Like, oh, that's bullshit.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yes.
Like, I mean, Steve Trevor is great, but fundamentally, that's just not an Amazon point of view. But anyway... but fan interactions, I'll say this. I was lucky enough to be at San Diego when the Justice League cast signing was happening. And I thought it was really beautiful to see people getting to meet the cast and especially getting to meet Gaul. Because you've had Linda Carter, but that was many, many years ago. And now to see this new generation meet this person who, it really is like meeting Christopher Reeve if you're a Superman fan or something like that. And to see those interactions, people who are like, borderline in tears meeting this person, you can see the sort of power of the character and
Right.
and the power of, to a much lesser extent, what we do, because I'm not here to put us over, but the power of the character and what it means to people. And I think it's for folks. I mean, they were trying to make that movie happen for the entirety of my life, to be quite honest. I remember when it was a Joss Whedon movie. I remember back, the Wizard fan casting is in the late 90s and things like that. So I will say that, like, it really did show me, when you work in the character, but in a tangible way, the effect she has on people. And we were lucky to have Gaul. I'm an asshole. I didn't work in that movie. The community was lucky to have Gaul because she, at least with her one-to-one interactions with people, she was that character. There's very little line, personality-wise, between her and Diana, and I think that was really special. Like I said, in the way Christopher Reeve. Like I think whenever they recast, and they will, because I think they're doing it for the new things. It's
It's
going to
be a tough one.
because we've had other Superman, but there's only one. There's
Yeah,
only
yeah.
one Reeve, and that's her. I think that's always going to be here for a lot
And
of people.
initially, when I didn't know Gaul, when they announced her, and the first image that I saw was like, oh, she's too, she needs to bulk up or something. But that didn't matter. I mean, to me, she transpired the gentle and the love, the
Yeah.
lovely, the love that one woman can carry with her. So totally worked for me now.
Can't think of anything
don't
off the top of
know if
your
I've had
head.
any fan interaction. Like I said, I did the one story, and it's like I don't know if anybody bought it. Actually, well, there's one guy that bought almost the entire story, the original order. So I guess
Oh,
somebody
wow.
liked it.
Somebody does. Well, but the thing is, when you do these characters, as it turned out, especially character like Wonder Woman, they inhabit the imagination of the public, and they are their own vision, their own expectation. They are part of them, and so when you do something a little bit out of the mold, like what we did with Earthmont, it might confront some people. And now I've got people coming to me and say, "Well, Wonder Woman wouldn't do this and say that," and I was like,
They're probably wrong.
"She just did, though." So I win.
Well, actually, Earth One is a great example. People were worked up that she wore the niqab when she went to the Middle East, but I think that's a very Diana thing because she understands respecting other people's culture. She would not.
Yeah, that actually makes total sense.
She would not enter somewhere without paying that respect and love. So
Yeah.
while that was like a tumultuous thing on whatever the internet, I thought that was a very Diana moment. She would rather not go there than to go there and just shit all over someone's
Yeah.
culture. It's
And-
just not her.
For the design, I saw that in the script and say, "Ah, Grant, yeah, sure." But I have a few Muslim friends. One of them is a great artist. And I went to her. It's like I need your help to help me design a niqab. And we went back and forth doing some design, and I used her design for my book. And in the bonus material, I show, I'm showing her design. I make sure her name is mentioned and everything. And, again, just like a cultural respect to the Korean.
Yeah. So I guess we could open it up to some fan questions. You guys got any questions for gentlemen at the table?
Why do you think it's been so hard to get like a Wonder Woman? To me, feels like there's a Batman show, Batman movie, Superman show, Superman movie. Why don't we have like a regular TV show? Why wouldn't that sell?
The short-sighted men think it won't sell, basically.
Yes.
It sounds too easy, but I have a gut feeling that's the answer. The truth.
Well, so agreed. I think progress is slow to happen. Folks behind the scenes have been diversifying and developing, even in the 10 years that I've been in the industry, but it takes a while to get to the top. So you are, to be quite frank, you're pitching these ideas to the same older guys who are in their mid-60s or early 70s now, and their views on what's marketable are generally stuck in that time period. Although that being said, you bring up things like TV and such. I think it's more complicated there, and I have less of an answer. I would guess that the answer is still who gets to have a say and who gets to create these shows. Because, the Wonder Woman show that almost hit TV was bad. I don't know how else to say this. It's not what Wonder Woman fans wanted. I'm sure someone probably wanted it, but in general, I don't think they wanted Sex in the City with her having ice cream parties with her roommates, which is what that show was. But someone thought that's what they wanted, probably an idiot.
That's what the women wanted.
Yes, but the way to find out what women want is to actually hire women to create the shows.
Yeah.
So TV is an interesting one because everything is easier. The size of your audience corresponds to how easy it is to get things done. It's much harder to get things done in comics because the metrics are quite thin, and while more people buy comics than ever before, the specific markets and metrics that people look at, that specific thing isn't necessarily growing. Maybe it's shrinking. When people decide if a book has a life or not, and I'm trying to keep this quick, it's basically only based on what it sells in the periodical and the comic shop, which is super short-sighted. We all know people buy graphic novels, people buy digital, but I think those things really aren't accounted for due to industry things that are boring.
Well, I'm sitting here thinking okay, so you had Smallville, you had Flash, and you have all these shows that are based off of the
sure.
universe. Why can't we have Themyscira?
Yeah, no, you're right. So it's more surprising that we didn't get more stuff. There could be a boring answer, like rights, if the movie was happening, because there is unfortunately a thing where usually it's very hard to get a character appearing in TV and film at the same time. It's not impossible. But there's a reason you see a lot of shows set in Gotham without Batman, for example. But to that end, that doesn't mean you couldn't have had Themysciran content for that same exact reason. So it's more surprising for me there because, to be frank, so many more people watch TV. If you want to talk about the general representation argument, I was talking to one of the guys that did shows in the CW when I got off the airplane here, and my fiance and I would watch Legends of Tomorrow and salivate over how diverse it was because I could never do a book like that and get it across the plate. But the fact is that the least watched episode of Legends of Tomorrow is consumed at an exponentially greater rate than the best-selling comic in a given month. So it is actually more surprising to me that we don't see things in TV, especially where risk is relatively low, costs are relatively low, versus comics. There's a morbid answer, but it's true. If the Wonder Woman monthly sold better, there would be 2 Wonder Woman monthlies. But they also need to change how they're looking at what's successful. The readership that hypothetically the main readership, if the readership of Wonder Woman is hypothetically women, the main readership, the main demo, these are people that maybe don't even feel necessarily automatically welcome in the places that sell the books they're using to measure a series' life. If you're a Wonder Woman reader, you don't feel like you have a place in a comic store because it's like, the android's dungeon in The Simpsons.
And so that,
You're probably picking up the. Oh, it is. I'm just saying in general, like you're probably picking it up in collected edition. You're probably picking it up in digital, but those aren't the numbers they're looking at. All they see is we do this book, and we're doing this book, and we're going to try to sell it to the same people we sell Superman to. But why aren't the Superman people buying it? Well, because it's not the same audience. So the answer is. Well, the answer is entrenched points of view and stupidity, which is not necessarily the best answer. But I do think that's the answer.
But the silver lining is that the industry, it does change if you compare.
Sure.
I've been there for 30 years now, and what we were doing in the mid 90s in terms of diversity is shameful. That was the stuff that. I'm looking even my own work. When I started doing comics, I'm French Canadian. I came with a different type of cultural background.
French Canadian?
I am, and then I went to a comic. To me, comic was just this expression of sexuality in the 80s, like the repressed American sexuality was emerging as comics. People in spandex, beautiful, fighting. It was just eroticism all over the place. Just an expression of it. And superhero comics, because there were other comics talking about other things, and that was entrenched in like a man fantasy a lot. And we have managed to emerge out of that through decades and through having a woman interacting, doing comics, and changing my views and the view in the internet industry. So we are moving slowly towards something. And these old executive at Warner that are in the 60s and 70s will eventually get out of the way.
And they'll have to at some point.
Yeah.
Well,
It's worth noting though that they are like there is like as Yanick said, like there are things even you can lead a horse to water repeatedly, and eventually if it's dying of thirst it'll figure it out. So like DC Superhero Girls, for example, that Shea Fontana creates or writes and co-created, that outsells nearly every like quote unquote like mainstream DC graphic novel. So like they see things like that, and eventually they'll like stare at that square peg in the square hole, and eventually they'll figure out this will go together. But it's never as fast as you want or as we want. Half of the shit I pitched when I was on Wonder Woman, they were like, this couldn't possibly be, and then 5 years later it's all being done. So like, and I'm happy that it exists. I'm not here being like, oh, this is something Steve pitched. I'm happy it's there for people now.
Anybody else have any questions?
Who's your favorite Wonder Woman family or supporting cast?
This is a very hard question for me.
Yeah.
Well, I just wrote Donna Troy and I really liked her, but I myself am a sarcastic piece of shit. So I feel like I have to say Artemis, because she's like, Diana always has the reaction I wish I had, and Artemis has the reaction I actually would have to a given situation, which is usually to say, bonk, you're dead. So that's probably the answer. I will note, though, that when I got into reading comics, due to John Byrne, Hippolyta was Wonder Woman, because Diana was the goddess of truth and alternatively dead or not comics. And I really like Hippolyta's run as well. So, but it's got to be Artemis. As much as I like Donna, as much as I like Hippolyta, Artemis is kind of like us. She's the vengeful one and the angry one. Well, Donna's probably the most like us because she aspires to that level of compassion. I always think that like when Diana takes the high road, Donna probably takes the high road as well there. But like when that asshole gets home, Donna's waiting to be like, did you really think you're going to get away with this? Like, just cracking her knuckles. Like, my sister is the good one. Here I am. Yeah. So, but it's still probably Artemis because she loves to fight and is a fun person.
And I guess probably Hippolyta in the context of Earth One, she's the archaic version of what Wonder Woman could have been. And Yeah, it's regal, and we're putting a lot of stock in the graphic of her, and I spent so much time drawing her. So yeah, totally tough.
Donna Troy. I was a big Teen Titans fan in the '80s, so I was probably more interested in her than Wonder Woman at the time. Just being a fan of that book.
Plus, Donna's lasso is meaner and can make you do whatever she wants.
Yeah.
That probably makes for like more options with storytelling too, right?
I mean, I loved the lasso. You had mentioned the lasso. Like when I was working on it, I built off of what Gail Simone did. Her run was very good. And it was one of those things where when she puts you in the lasso, you go into this world inside the lasso where you can only speak the truth, right? And I like that because it allowed us to examine Diana's not perfect. Like, she does have some faults. One of them, we did an annual where she put Gorilla Grodd in the lasso for reasons that I can't remember. And, but the whole point of that scene is, like, Diana thinks people are inherently good. That's her go-to.
Right.
But she reached this point with Grodd because she's just, if I can just show you somehow that what you're doing is causing all this pain and isn't. And finally, because he's in the lasso, he can't lie. He said, you keep trying to explain this to me, but the fact is, I want to hurt people. I don't not know what I'm doing. I'm fully aware of what I'm doing, and I do hate these people. And so I thought that was hard for her, because she's a person that probably does. The first story I wrote with her, because I thought I was only going to get one issue, was called The 52 Visits, and it was about this character that tries to assassinate her in Shea Fontana's run. And the one shot was all about how Diana cares about, obviously, the people she's protecting, but she cares about her enemies too. And this is all about how this character couldn't understand that. That she goes to prison, she tried to kill people, and had killed people, but year after year, because we were allowed to go past the present, Diana visits her, and slowly over these decades, she goes from understanding that this is not an act, this is not a work with Diana. She really does care, and they eventually get to the point where Hippolyta dies, and this person is, without Diana realizing it, become like her secret confidant, and they've become peers in this way over 30, 50 years, because she does really, for the most part, believe that everybody just needs the right level of compassion and understanding. But of course, it then becomes interesting with things like the lasso, where she's confronted with the fact that it's not true about every single person.
Right.
And never mind the fact that truth itself is subjective. We try to, or at least can't always be known. We tried to do something in our run when we reintroduced Paula von Gunther, who, if you want to talk about how radical the original run was for folks who do or do not know, Paula was a fucking Nazi in the 30s. But even that, Diana confronted her in the 30s and 40s, and she went to Paradise Island, went to Themyscira, and went to what used to be called Reformation Island, where the Amazons believed that with enough love, anybody could learn the Amazon way, and that included Paula von Gunther. We brought her back, and the whole vendetta between them was that she believed she was descended from the Valkyries, and that, in prehistory, when Amazons were still flourishing, the Valkyries had attacked Themyscira. There was a big fight, and nobody really knows what happened. Valkyries weren't immortal like Amazons were. Hippolyta could be lying, and the whole thing was that Diana couldn't tell if Paula thought that the Amazons had slaughtered the Valkyries. Diana says, well, they would never do that. But she has no way of knowing. She wasn't there. The Valkyries that were there are all dead. And, it's this confrontation of what two people believe to be true, but not everything can be proved. And when you put Paula in the lasso, she's saying what she thinks is true. But, that's to empirical truth, at least when I write it, is beyond the lasso.
Yeah. Because we live, especially now, we live in a world where, many truths has to collide and confront each other.
Sure.
There is enough. Yeah.
And things are verifiable today, but it's I'm trying to think of something. I don't know, if you go far back enough, history sort of blends with myth, right? And so how do you verify? Those things aren't verifiable. So someone probably thinks that something from then is definitely what happened. But there's no way of knowing. They would say that if they were in the lasso.
Yep.
But who knows?
Pretty cool.
So before we let you guys get back to your table, tell everybody where your tables are at and where everybody can find you guys online.
We're sitting together. I don't know where. There's that guy between us.
That guy.
That guy. Where are we? I don't know. You know our table?
Nope. Sure don't, but I will
You're
tell
in
you.
Inferno. That's professional.
It's super professional. I'm across from DG Chichester. That's helpful. We are all in a row. Well, Chris is one row over from us. We are all.
I mean, Artist Alley is not.
This is what I was going to say.
They're pretty easy to find.
We're behind the tchotchkes, folks. This is where you find us. We're 2 rows down from the stand. I don't know what they actually sell, but they have a giant poster of the guy that played Max Lord. What is his name?
Pedro Pascal.
Yes, Pedro Pascal. It just says Daddy. I don't know what they're selling. I almost don't want to know what they're selling because I feel like it won't be as good as it is in my mind.
Right.
Mythical.
But yeah, we're there. And online, I'm at the Steve Orlando.
Yeah, I'm on my own name too on Instagram, whatever, Facebook. Nothing fancy.
Instagram, I'm Chris Sprouse Comics, and Facebook, I've got a fan page that's just my name, and I post the pencil art for whatever's coming out any given week. So that's pretty much all it is. But if that's what you want to see, I'm going to follow Chris Sprouse Comics.
There you go, guys. Thanks for coming out.
I also have a Substack in which I do complete breakdown of either process or I'll share like drawing tips or.
Okay, cool, awesome. Well, yeah, thanks everybody for sitting in.